Welcome to my series based on Zentangle's Bijou Be Well, done in May 2025. Each day, Zentangle put out a video featuring one pattern, and the design was meant to be drawn in a short amount of time, so you could just take a little time for yourself and kind of get yourself centered. I encourage you to go visit their YouTube channel. I'll have the link down in the comments, and you could see how they did their designs. This series is meant to walk you through how to draw each design, and then also to give you some alternative ideas for embellishments and ways to kind of zhuzh up that pattern. This video covers Idoz. For all cards in this series, I used the same tools, so you will see in every single video in this series a blue Micron 05 pen, a General's Indigo blue chalk pastel pencil, an 8B graphite pencil, two Tortillons, so one for blue, one for black, and white tiles. And of course, that's my trusty little pencil sharpener there as well. If you followed along with the Zentangle series, you will notice that they also include a white pencil and a Tortillon for that. I chose to not use those for my series because I'm using a white tile, and I find that the white chalk pastel pencil really doesn't add very much to the design. Take a moment to gather your tools, get yourself centered, make sure you're sitting comfortably in your chair. When you're ready, let's begin. We'll start with a seed-shaped string drawn with our pencil, going diagonally from corner to corner, so one big wide arc, and then the second. And then you can put down your pencil and grab your pen. And at one end of the seed, not all the way at the edge, but towards one end, draw something that looks like a teardrop or a leaf. Turn your card 90 degrees, and you're going to do that again, but when you run into the first one, you're just going to stop and do what we call drawing behind. Turn the card 90 degrees, do it again when you run into those first two. Just stop, and then finally turn the card 90 degrees one more time and create a fourth one. Now move a little ways to the side of that one, and we're going to do this process all again, starting with that teardrop shape. Turning the card 90 degrees, doing it again. 90 degrees, do it again. And if you run into the first set of teardrop shapes, you're just going to pick up your pen and put it down on the other side of those lines. Now, depending on how large you went, you might be done, but if you can fit a third set in, go for it. So I'm putting a third set in here. They are going to definitely be running into the second set, and that's okay. When I run into the first set, I just pick up my pen and then continue that line on the other side. I'm using the pencil line as a hard and fast stopping point, so you might end up with either a partial teardrop shape, or you may want to make it small. So I'm layering a few more in here. Do as many as you feel comfortable, but leave some space in between. You don't want to pack these in too tightly, because we're going to do something else after we get these initial sets of teardrop shapes drawn. The next step is going to be like drawing an aura, in other words, drawing a parallel line, but we're going to come away from the tip of the teardrop shape instead of making a purely parallel line, but we're otherwise following the curve. And what we're going to do is fit these ripples, as I like to call them, in wherever we can put them. And sometimes we'll just put one or two off of a side. Sometimes we'll put a whole bunch. Sometimes we will be fitting them into a space, so we're always rippling off of another line. It might be the teardrop itself, or it might be off of another ripple, as you can see what I'm doing right there. And I'm going to work my way around all of these shapes and just fit them in however they will fit. And the goal is to fill up the string, the whole seed shape, with these ripples. So fit them in however works for the way you drew the pattern. And for further embellishment, pick one of the teardrop shapes that's kind of out in the open. You don't want one that's too buried. And draw a seed shape that's coming out of the center of the cluster of the four. And then you can draw a little thin ripple off of each side. So I start right at where I started that seed shape, and then I just bring it to the tip. In the middle of the shape, draw an orb that touches both sides. And then draw a partial orb that comes out of that center orb. And then repeat the process until you get to the end of your seed shape, and then go and do the other side the same way. If you have any little white spots that didn't get some ink as you're drawing it, you can fill those in. Those are called interstices. Pick one or two more leaf shapes and do the process again. Once you're done embellishing your pattern, grab your chalk pastel pencil or your graphite pencil, and let's start with the leaves or those teardrop shapes. I'm going to pick a side, and it really doesn't matter which one, but I'm going to pick a side, and I'm going to put some color along the edge of that side. So in this little cluster, I did the left side on one, I'm doing the right side on the other. It really doesn't matter. If there is overlap, I'll put a little bit of that graphite along where that overlap is too, or the chalk pastel. And then inside these little seed pods that we made, I'm putting graphite along one side. I'm going to work my way around all of these teardrop shapes, and I'm not coloring in the entire shape. I'm doing a very thick line of color, or if you're using graphite, you could do graphite as well, so that when we blend this out, there will be some very deep shading or color, and then some places where it's going to be very, very light, if not still white. So let's blend this out before we do the next step. I'm going to grab my tortillon, and I'm going to take that blue, or you can use the graphite, of course, and I'm going to first rub the tortillon right over the blue and just smooth out what's there, and then I'm going to pull it into the teardrop shape, and I'm being very careful to leave some white in each of the teardrop shapes. So I'm just making sure that there's some smooth edges, and I'm creating a bit of a gradient between the very dark side and then bringing it out to a lighter spot on each of these teardrop shapes. And each one could be a little different. This is a very weird abstract pattern, so we aren't really trying to play with light sources or anything like that. We're just trying to create some highlights and lowlights. From here, I'm going to pick up my pencil again, so either the color or the graphite, and I'm going to add a little bit of color where those wavy shapes that we created from the original teardrops, basically where they come to a point, and then also where they are running into something. So you can see here how I'm basically just going at like both ends of the sets of lines that create those wavy shapes. I'm being a little random about it. I don't feel the need to put it everywhere. And I'm also not going to put a lot down. There's quite a bit on my teardrop shapes already, but I want to just make sure that there's some blue in the background as well. As I blend out the pencil, I'm just going to keep it concentrated pretty much where I put it down. So I'm definitely pulling it along and fuzzing it out a bit, but I'm leaving quite a bit of white also in those waves. I don't want to pull the blue all the way across those lines. Next, I'm going to grab my graphite pencil. If you've been using graphite all along, this might be an optional thing for you. You can decide how much more you want to put on. And I'm shading any place that has an overlap. So where things are sitting on top of something else, I'm putting a little bit of graphite around the outside edge of it. So my little teardrop shapes are getting a little extra graphite around their edges. The little seed shape that we make inside of the teardrop shapes, the darker side got a little bit of graphite. But what I'm basically doing is just deepening those shadows and then making things pop up off of the card. I'm blending as I go. This helps me kind of keep track of where I've been for one thing, but then also I can gauge how much more I need to add and see how things are kind of working in relation to each other. Finally, I'm going to take a little bit of graphite and run it along the edge of the seed shape, restating the string, and then I'm going to blend that out. And this is just going to clean up the edges a little. As I blend it, I'm not really cheating the graphite inwards or outwards. I'm just kind of letting it lay where it's going to be. I don't take it too far away from the pattern. I want to keep it nice and close to that string line. So I'm really just creating a solid border with the graphite. Take a moment and admire the work that you put into your design. And when you're ready, grab your pen and add your chop. And there you have it. Idoz.